All right. So hi everyone, my name is Romain. I've been involved with Flutter for 4 years now, and I'm the founder of Codika. And today I'm going to make a live demo of our tool, which is composed of 3 different things, and you discover tonight what that is. So, what is Codika? At the base of Codika is a Dart CLI, so a command line interface written in Dart that simplifies professional mobile app development. We handle all the configuration and the distribution process automatically with the Dart CLI. Initially, the project started as Mason bricks, and this replies to your question about can we create a system that's bigger than just Mason bricks. We encapsulated core components of mobile apps into their own and independent Mason bricks. We have like a main starter project to which those bricks are connected. And everything is handled by our CLI to glue everything together. Recently, we've added a new functionality which enables anyone to create their own toolkits. So we facilitate the creation of custom starters and custom components, and this will be one of the demonstrations I will make today. So, the talk was, I will deploy a production-ready application in under 20 minutes on test flights. But what is a production-ready app? In this context, we are going to consider it's an app that has a clean environment, so different flavors for different environments. Environment-dependent backend, so if we use, for example, Firebase, you want 2 different Firebase projects set up for each environment. Flutter version manager, of course. A clean CI/CD pipeline, so we want an entire pipeline that makes it easy for us to deploy a new app to the stores. And code push, it's nice to have. Is anyone familiar with Shorebird here? Just raise the hand. Okay. So for the other ones, I'm going to explain what it is. For this demonstration, we are going to use Flavorizer for creating the environments, Firebase as backend, FVM, CodeMagic. Is anyone not familiar with CodeMagic? Please raise the hand. Okay, that's a good point. Okay, CodeMagic basically is a CI/CD tool that makes it easy to create create mobile apps and send it to the stores. And Shorebird, so it's code push. It's made by Felix Angloff and Eric Seidel, one of the founders of Flutter, and it enables to update mobile apps without going through the stores. I'll explain later how it works. This is the structure of the talk. The first live demo is going to be, we are going to use the Codika CLI to create an app and send it to the stores. The second demo will be about showcasing, so just one point about the first demo. We are going to push the initial Flutter app, so the counter app, to the stores. And in the second live demo, I'm going to show all the Codika components and some features that we have, especially with environment variables. And in the third demo, I talked about it, we are going to generalize a starter project and a component that we will be able to use inside the CLI directly. After that, we are going to talk about the benefits of Codika, and then what's the vision and what's the mission of Codika, actually. Let's get started. So we are going to do a lot. It's going to be really dense, so maybe during this demo I'm not going to explain everything, but since the app has to be built for like 10 minutes, I will come back to some explanation once it's being built. So we are going to create the Flutter counter, as I said. We are going to set up CodeMagic, create the App Store Connect page of the app, deploy the app using Shorebird, and deploy a patch version to the app. And all that in under 5 minutes. So that's the promise. Everything can go bad. I hope it's not, but yeah, let's do it. I'm going to sit because it's easier. All right, that comes later. So as I said, the Codika CLI is a CLI that just runs in your terminal. And here are some of the commands that we have currently in production. And the one we are interested in is the create command. So let's start. Codika create. The Codika create command will ask us for some information about the app. Here we are going to say it's Belgium Meetup. Okay. Codika. Oops. We are going to set up Git, and it asks us for a Git URL. So I'm going to create a new one. Oops. Create. All right. Now the CLI asks us which environments we want. We are going to take development and production for this one. And as I said, we are going to use the Flutter starter and not the Codika one. Out of the box, it automates the change of app icons and splash screen. So we are going to take this. We are going to use Firebase, and we are going to create new projects. So the CLI has the capacity to create projects on top of connecting to existing projects. We are going to use Shorebird, and we are going to use CodeMagic. So while everything is being built, we can already go on the stores and set up some information. So we are going to create the identifiers. Oops. I do have Wi-Fi. Belgium Meetup. Continue, register. We are going to directly create a new profile for it that we will link inside CodeMagic to sign the application. Belgium Meetup, continue, and we're going to use this one. Profile, generate. We don't need to download it because CodeMagic actually has access to it, but what we can already do is register the application inside CodeMagic. You're going to grab it from GitHub, take Flutter, and here we should see Belgium Meetup Codika. Finish. We can switch to the YAML configuration. So Codika automates the creation of the workflow, so the codemagic.yaml file, based on the configuration that we have. This webhook, we can already put it inside GitHub. This is because we can automate the builds based on some push on some branches. So when we are going to push the code on the prod branch, it's going to create a new version of the app. I knew this was going to happen, so everything is fine. Okay, I can wait. Let's register the webhook. And that's now done here. We can go back to the developer portal, and we are going to create, oops, I should have, oh, it's fine. We have plenty of time. Okay, we are going to register the app inside App Store Connect, as I said. Create a new app, iOS, Belgium Meetup. English, let's say. Let's take this one. Belgium Meetup. Complete, create. All right, let's go check what happened with the CLI. Here we can see, I'm quickly going to show you what it did. So it created the Firebase project, and it also initialized the Firestore databases. And it pushes some rules directly on the Firestore. I'm going to show you later what those were. We set up FVM to 3.27.2, which is a parameter that can be changed. We set up GitHub, we set up the flavors, we created the starter project, and we automated some steps here. And this is, I'm going to explain also later what this is. Don't worry about this, it's absolutely normal. In the Google info plist, when you add authentication, as you probably know, there is a reverse client ID when you add Google authentication in Firebase, but here I didn't, so it's normally it didn't find it. All right. Now it's cleaning the project, and in test flight, I can already register myself as an internal tester. The goal of this demonstration is to have the app on my phone by the end of the talk. I'm going to invite myself. timing is perfect. The build has now done, and it opened directly the project in my computer. And as we can see, it did all the Firebase configuration automatically, so it downloaded all the files, and here I have a project ready to be developed. There is a central file that that acts as operator of all the different blocks that we use in Codika, which is this one. And as we can see, we have 4 components inside this one. Those components are mason bricks. But I need to speed up for the build, so I'm just going to continue here. We need some additional setup to link the project to CodeMagic, so add the CodeMagic ID here. I will go to the apps. Actually, I should open this in a new tab. Belgium Meetup. Let's get the app ID. Where is it? It's here. And I just need to add the provisioning profile inside CodeMagic now. So I can go to CodeMagic, to the teams, to my team in which I added the app. Inside code signing identities, provisioning profile, and here I will be able to see Belgium Meet profile and give it the name that was provided in the config file. And so basically that is it. Now we can use the Codika CLI to automate the build and send the app to the stores. So this, let me just check, because I don't want it to fail. But I just need to be sure it's okay. But it should be. Otherwise it happens, okay? I can push already here the changes. Changed. Oh, there is something I need to do. Actually, I can say Codika, CodeMagic setup. What this is going to do is it's going to send the environment variables inside CodeMagic. So Brent talked about it earlier. We don't want to have environment and secret variables inside GitHub. So we need to send them to CodeMagic, and we use their API to do this. And so if now, well, you know what, I'm going to explain later, because I want the build to happen quickly. Update CodeMagic, commit, sync. All right, and now I can do Codika, build, prod, and voila. So now it's going to push the entire app inside the prod branch, and this is going to launch a build inside CodeMagic and build the mobile app. If I want to build a patch, so now we're more relaxed because the build is sent, so I can talk a bit more easily now. If I want to create a patch, I can simply say prod build patch, and it will send the patch inside CodeMagic also. I can show you here. Inside CodeMagic, we have a dedicated workflow, so it's quite a big file. But I have a prod iOS workflow, which is the one that was executed when we push on the prod branch. And I have a prod iOS patch, which is executed when we push on the prod patch. Earlier, as you saw, we chose to use the development and the production environments. If we had selected test and stag, all come with similar workflows where we have Shorebird automatically included inside the environment. And well, we are going to make a modification. So I'm going to go to the main app. Is anyone not familiar with the cursor here, the IDE? Please raise the hand. No? Okay. So it's basically a clone of VS Code that encapsulates some AI functionalities and which lets you talk with your code base in natural language. And we are going to use it here to automate some modifications. So I'm just going to say, you know the basic Flutter app, it's a counter. I want to add a decounter button. It's just an easy modification. Please add a decount button, and please make it a separate widget and have it be used by both buttons. It's smarter than us, so it should understand what I said. I'll help you create a separate counter. I'll check that it's correct though. So here it changed the classical floating button by a counter button, and the counter button should be here. Actually, I want it to be in another file. Let's ask it. Put that button in another file. Okay, when I said I included AI in the system, I'm not talking about this. It comes later, of course. It's just to make the workflow easier here. All right, accept all. I'm just going to check counter, counter, all right. And now I'm going to push the patch directly. Let me just push here, changed UI, let's say sync. And let me build the production patch. We can normally see, if we see red, it's really bad. Okay, not yet. This is the workflow, so I can just show inside CodeMagic what happens. Those are all scripts that are automatically written for users, and it will build the app later. And normally we should have a queued. Okay, here we have a queued task, which will be the creation of the patch. I think I finished for this first demo, so everything currently went well. It can still fail, but currently it went well. So what happened? A lot happened. We talked about, your question earlier was how can we have a system that makes blocks glue together? The difficult part of this is about the configuration files actually. If you want to include authentication, well, you need to add the code of the screens, but you also need to change the info plist, for example. You need to add packages, you need to add assets, you need to add a lot of things on top of the code, strictly speaking. And that's what we automate with the CLI. So we have, I can show you the code. It wasn't meant to be done, but you're a technical guy, so I mean, I can have some freedom here. Inside the code, the authentication block. So those are the components. I can show you already here. Those are all the different Mason bricks that we have. And inside each Mason brick, we have a Codika folder, which automates the imports and the different steps of creating blocks. So here it adds those assets. It adds some block providers, some dependencies. Here it changes some stuff inside the info plist. By default, the Codika app handles multi-language, so we have different localization tokens for each language. We have routes, a lot of things are happening. And this is what we can see inside the execution. That's what we saw here actually. This is everything that's implemented for each block. Let me go back to my presentation. So we have the project created, we have the flavor set up, FVM set up, Firebase, the projects were created, so I didn't create them earlier. The CLI created them for us. And it downloaded the configuration files, modified the app icon and the splash screen. And on the distribution side, we created the entire app on App Store Connect, set up Shorebird, CodeMagic, and enable finally the command, Codika build command. So this is what happened. We have, here we use the Flutter starter. So we don't have special components here. It was just the counter app. But we have core components which can be integrated in any project. So they're really independent from any other architecture in your app. It's the splash screen, app icon, Shorebird, and CodeMagic. And this is going to make sense right now, because I want to show you how to create an app with the Codika component library. And this is how it presents. We have a Codika starter, which just as Brent say, you have this in your company, where you have a Mason brick that initializes a project. Well, I have the same. It's a Codika starter, and it initializes a design system, design components, a routing system, It has a domain-driven design architecture, and actually there is a lot more here. And what's important, I can show you just here. So this starter also has access to all the components here, but on top of it, we provide a lot more components out of the box. And what's important, as I said, is that each block here uses the design components from the starter. So that means we have a centralized way of changing the app. And so we can quickly create really complex mobile apps, change the design, and change the screens on the fly, actually. With our CLI being able to publish the apps really fast, it means we can just streamline the app creation really easily. And we have a domain-driven design architecture, which means it's really, I mean, it doesn't mean because we could do it badly, but it's professional in the way that it's really well organized and structured inside the application. For example, one thing that was really important for us was the ability to change the backend if you wanted. Currently we have Firebase, but we have always interfaces and classes that implement them. So the idea is we don't need to change the app if you want to go to Supabase or to Serverpod or something like that. All right, so those are the Codika components. There are many more. And I want to show you one particular one, which is about branch.io. Does anyone know or no? Does anyone not know branch.io? Please raise the hand. Okay. So branch.io is basically a deep linking system. Maybe you use the one from Firebase, but it's deprecated, bad news. It's not continued anymore. It lets you share links that point to a location inside your app. And branch.io does it in a really good way where you can have a lot of analytics behind it. But if anyone set up branch.io, it's really a nightmare. There is a lot of things that need to be automated in like the info plist inside a lot of configuration files. And we automated that with files. And since you're tech nerds, again, I can show you. Let's go to here. So this is everything we automate in the Android manifest, where we add intent filters. In the info plist, we add a lot of things. Okay, let's go. We are going to create a new project. So clear. We have the Belgium Meetup, and I'm going to show you now. If you do Codika create, first I'm going to show something else, demo. We are not going to create the end of the app, so we don't care about this. If you take the Codika starter, here we can select all the different blocks that we want. We just select the ones we want, and it will add them to during the building process. The CLI is smart enough because there are some dependencies between those blocks. For example, to have authentication, you need to have user profile. Well, if you take only authentication, it's going to recognize which one needs to be added and automatically add them to your mobile app. And again, as I said, we can automate the app icons and stuff, but we're not going to finish this app. So clear. I wanted to show you the branch.io thing. Create. What's the default name? Branch.io demo. Oops. We are not going to launch this one on the stores. I just wanted to show you something. We are going to add the block later, so you see the changes. Yes, let's have this. Oh no. Let's go back. Create. Branch.io demo. I selected Firebase, but for this one we're not going to use Firebase. Oops, no, no, and no. Okay. So again here, just like before, it adds the flavors block, FVM, Git, and a lot of other stuff. Is there a question? Because we have to wait like 30 seconds. Is there a question? A lot of questions. Okay, I'll take him first because he raised it first.
How do you manage? You're using
Yes. So when we basically in the starter project, for just the starter project, we have a pub spec init that sets the versions of your dependencies. So I can show you inside here, Codika starter. Oops, there is a pub spec init, and the content of this file is going to be copied inside the pub spec of the created project. And so with this one, you're sure that there is no error. Yes, exactly. But that means that you sometimes have to, I mean, sometimes I create a new project. I use, on this one it doesn't work, but I use the version lens. If you don't use this, you should. This here, where you can see all the new versions. And sometimes I create just a sample project where I update all the versions, I check that everything works still, and then I update the pub spec init. Yep.
Can you add a full configuration to the create command, or have it with parameters instead of interactively going through them?
Yes. Actually, so the configuration file that I showed you here, this configures literally the app. And so I have here a project. If we say Codika create -c and I say config.yaml, it will bypass all the input and just create it from scratch. Because the idea behind this, and I will come back in the mission and the vision of Codika, is to really streamline the entire process. And yes, so we had to find something like this. All right, so here we are. If you're lost sometimes when I switch screens and stuff, don't hesitate to ask me where we are, because I know it can be a bit overwhelming. But so here we are in the branch.io project that I created, and I wanted to show you how we manage environment variables. So if here I say Codika create, add block. The first thing is it's going to check the configuration and check which starter project I used. And it will only show us the different components that are linked to the starter project. It will become handy later. So I go to branch.io. Wait, okay. Branch.io, oops. All right. And by having pushed to GitHub, we can analyze all the changes that occur when we add a new block. And so it's a good way to see what actually happens. So we can see in the Android manifest file, it added a lot of lines, and those are configured with some variables here. We have the string. Those are parameters that are inside the environment, so we don't hard code them inside the configuration files. Just as in the info plist, we have, for example, the live key and the test key. Those need to be added inside the environment files, and to do so, Codika provides a command. It says Codika, I think it's set env var, where we can see the different environment variables that are configured on my computer. And so I can simply pick the branch.io scheme, let's say. I add a variable. And what it does is inside my environment files, it's going to add it automatically inside here. It's really handy because there is a direct link between this and CodeMagic. So whenever I change an environment file or a variable, we update the file in CodeMagic, so there is a sync always. And that's why here we see that it's invalid, because I didn't set up CodeMagic and it just don't find the actual CodeMagic project. All right, that was it for the environment variables. Let's see what CodeMagic did. So the build is finished. It has been sent to the stores, and normally if I go back to the App Store Connect, to test flight, I know Apple requires some verification process, yes. So we should have it in like 1 or 2 minutes. So let me show you the last demo of tonight. Live demo 2 went again pretty well. I mean, did you understand something I said? Because that's like the measure. Yeah, that's how I measure if it went well, actually. So, but if you understood, it's fine. Live demo 3, we are going to. Sorry?
We are inspired by the speed you are doing this.
I have to, otherwise there is a lot. I said it was going to be dense. So let's generalize a starter project and a component. We make it really easy. So for those who used Mason, writing Mason blocks is not difficult in itself, but it's cumbersome. There are a lot of things to do. You need to copy the files. You need to rename variables. It's really a lot of work. And we try to make this simpler. So we are going to create a starter project. And the advantage of Codika is that the starter project will still benefit of the core components that we have. So basically, you can create your own architecture and still use our CodeMagic pipeline. So there is no vendor lock, I would say, in using our architecture and our way of doing things. You can set up your own. Live demo 3, here something can go wrong, so I love this move. We are going to create a custom starter project, create a custom component, and use them locally on the computer. So I'm going to go back to the first project that we had inside Belgium Meetup. And what we are going to do is we are going to say, let's say this project where we added the decrement button, we want this to be our initial Flutter project, and we always want this decrement button. So we can use the Codika create component. Yep. And it will ask us what kind of component we want to do. So here I said we are going to do a starter project. So let's select a starter. What's the name of the organization? I will say Meetup. And the name of the component, let's say starter. Here I can directly copy files and copy path actually. So for this one, I'm going to copy the relative path of the main. But it's important to know we could actually select multiple files and copy. You know what? I'm going to show you. A relative path here, copy, and we can copy multiple file paths, and it's going to generalize all those paths and create the corresponding folders if there are subfolders, of course. But here, of course, I need to start over. Voilà, starter, Meetup, starter. I'm just going to take this one. All right. So it detected that we have one file, in total one file. Do you want to proceed? We want to proceed. It will automatically create a variable for the project name. When you import some widgets from other files, you have the path, the name of your project inside the path. So if you want to reuse those inside other projects, you need to generalize the project name so that you can put it as a variable later. But in this one, it didn't detect any. I'm not going to go too deep here. We are not going to add any variable. And we are going to create the starter project. What happened? I can show you here. It created a new folder, Codika local blocks, where we have the Meetup starter here that was automatically created, and it changed, it added some default variables inside here by default. Okay, I will also create another component that contains the counter button, because as you saw in the starter project, I didn't generalize the counter button. So if I use this one out of the box, it won't run because I don't have the button. So let's create a component with the button. Meetup button. Since it's not a starter project, you can link this component to an existing starter project on your local machine. And in this case, we are going to send it to Meetup. We are taking here the folder, copy relative path again, Here it took a folder, so it checked all the sub-files inside this folder and it detected one file. We are going to generalize. We don't want to add any variable. By the way, variables are really interesting when you generalize objects because you can generalize entire pipelines of object definition to object UI. So if you have a widget that shows the content of an object, then you can generalize the entire pipeline in the architecture. Okay, and so the final demo is here. I can now, and I can show you here, it added the Meetup button in the local blocks. Codika create, up, 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 up. And here we can see now we have the option of having the Meetup starter. You're going to select this one, and as we can see, we have one component that's linked to that project, which is the button. And well, again, we have all the core components that are still available to this new project. We are not going to join this, all right? Voila, and that's it. Normally, by now, I should be able to show you that it worked. Maybe for just, this is a little detail, but normally you have to say that you didn't encrypt some data. You probably know you have to go manually check this inside. Well, actually there is a way to automate this, and so you don't have to do it yourself. And this is by, I can show you because it's inside the blocks. Wait, blocks, inside the starter. And here inside the info plist, we automate this. Its app uses not exempt encryption. So if you set that with false inside your info plist, you don't have to put this manually inside App Store Connect. This is a tip from Anne Binotto. I'm going to find his name back. I have it here actually. No, I'll give it to you later, otherwise I'm going to spoil. All right. And now comes the time where I show you the app. I am going to go here. So I should have received a mail saying that I was invited to testing a mobile app. And I am going to show you. All right. So this is Belgium Meetup, view in test flights. Install. So this is not local development. I mean, you could share this to anyone in the world. It's not because my computer is here that my app is there actually. So open, and here we have it. So Flutter with Codika is just, this is the basic counter app. And if we wait just a little bit more for CodeMagic to finish the build of, oh, it did, so it's perfect. With Shorebird, how it works, and now I can explain you what I think I know about Shorebird, because it seems to be really technical. But basically, it wraps the build of your app with a tool that when you launch it, will check on a server if there are updates available for the app. And every time you launch your mobile app, it's going to ask the server, is there a new patch available? If yes, it downloads it. And the next time you launch your app, it installs it on the app, and so you have the new version available. And this bypasses completely the App Store verification team. So if you have an app in production, well, you're able to send modifications directly without verifying it again. So how it works is I just delete the app, kill the app, I go back, and as we can see, so that's cursor fucked up here. Oh, sorry, you don't see it anymore. Oh. Too bad. You didn't have the wow effect. But so here it added the other counter, so here I can say plus, and here I can say minus. But cursor fucked up with this emoji instead. If I had the app running locally, I could have seen it, but I didn't. I trusted him, and he failed me. I could, well, actually this one comes from CodePush, so I could fix it with CodePush. If you want, I can do it now, and so later when we talk, I can show you it works. But okay, so I'm kind of relieved because every demo went pretty well. Okay, so this is the final part of the presentation. For who is Codika? Codika is for basically every Flutter dev that want just improve their Flutter experience by automating their repetitive tasks. It's for agencies that, just as the company where we are, A.C.A, sorry, if I pronounce it bad, but A.C.A, sorry, that want to streamline the production of mobile apps. We make it just easier. It's for freelancers, for indie developers that want to have quick CI/CD pipelines also. This is more for the Codika CLI, because when I talked about this project to other developers, the thing they didn't like was us to have an opinionated architecture. So a lot of people don't use block, a lot of people don't use autoroute, and it was difficult to force this to users. So this is why we automated the creation of custom projects. But the Codika component library, I would say it's more for startups, companies that want to really quickly have professional apps, and we provide some documentation about how to getting started and how each block works. No, it's a lie. The documentation for how each block works isn't done, but the configuration is done. But it's a lot of work, so it's going to come in the months to come. All right, what's next for Codika? This is where AI enters. The first thing that's really obvious is we want to add server pod and Supabase integration because it's just better than Firebase. I mean, I could say that, but it's cheaper at least. We want to add AI to automations. This is the biggest one we're working on currently. We have AI engineers that work on this to create lang graph systems where we have automatic Flutter version and packages update. So your app could be able to automatically update itself to the latest Flutter version and the packages. And this works well with the Codika components because if a human does it once, well, we can replicate the logic behind doing it in every project because the architecture is predefined. So it's not difficult at all, actually. We want to add languages using AI. We want to create abstract data type and data transfer objects on the fly using natural language. So those are all tools we are working now. They're not production ready yet, but they are going to be in the year. And voila. The difficult part is develop the community, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I count on you. This year, I'm going to launch the Friday App Challenge with our CI/CD pipeline that goes really fast. We are going to create an app in a day. And so every 2 weeks, a Friday, we are going to post an app challenge, and we want the community to take part in it and replicate their own versions of that concept. So yeah, we're not talking about replicating Facebook and stuff, but of course it's like small indie dev things. And the end goal also of Codika is to provide some work for developers that don't find any work by having some sort of marketplace. We strongly believe there is a shift in how people work. People more and more want to become freelancers. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I am one. It's totally possible. But the idea is to have a marketplace, kind of marketplace, where we have certified developers that we know are good, that could be work on client projects. And with a standardized architecture, it's easy to change products from people to people because they understand how the project works. All right. The tool is available. We have a Discord, so if you want to get access to it, you can just ask us on the Discord channel. Last time I did this lightning talk here, it was not here, it was in Leuven, but where I showed how we handled API keys. So if you ask me, I'm going to give you an API key, and you can directly, again, you're a tech nerd, so let's fucking do it. So Codika configure. Here we have some environment variables globally on your computer, and basically you just say Codika configure, add the Codika API key, and well, you're ready to start using the tool. Oops. We have clean documentation. I can show you also. Codika docs. It will launch the documentation here. We have our documentation. If you are familiar with Claude from Antwerp, we completely copied their interface because it's just nice. So yes, you can get started here, configuring your first application. We provide a lot of explanations and some video that were recorded but are still in processing to be put inside the documentation. All right, and I think that was it. Thank you very much for your attention.